Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Kristen, and welcome to this edition of Abbey Research Reads. Today, I'm talking about Caitlin Moran's book, More Than a Woman. For those of you who are not familiar with Caitlin, she is a British comedian. The closest thing we probably have in the United States is if you mashed Tina Fey, Amy Schumer, and Chelsea Handler together. She rose to prominence writing art columns in newspapers, largely around music. She's from a working class background in a town called Wolverhampton. It's a huge part of her identity. And she's written a couple books and a lot of articles and has an anthology. And I like her a lot. I don't agree with her all the time for sure. And she is very, very crass, as it were. She talks about the female body very openly in some ways that may make some folks uncomfortable. And there are chapters of this book, More Than a Woman, that I didn't completely love. But I would still recommend the book for a couple reasons. One is that very few other people are talking about women's bodies the way that she is on as large of a platform as she has. She is writing from a middle-aged perspective and addresses her early 20s self and kind of the things that she thought she had figured out. And essentially what this book is a meditation on getting comfortable with not knowing what you're doing and getting comfortable with change. Additionally, throughout this book, her child deals with an eating disorder. And Caitlin is incredibly honest about her emotions around that as a mother. I don't know if it would be a trigger warning worthy thing, to be honest, because she doesn't really talk about the disease itself. It might be, your mileage may vary. But she spends a lot of time being honest with the readers about the things she thought it was and the ways she thought she was helping that weren't. And what love looks like in that kind of trauma. She's also really honest about sex in some incredibly refreshing ways, because even if you don't think the same way about sex that she does, for a lot of people, it's nice to know that someone does. I liked a lot of this book. It's available at my library, which is where I got it from. And I've seen it in the United States kind of all over the show. So you should be able to get a hold of this wherever you are. It seems to be in wide publication. It's not it's a cohesive story in the fact that like she is a cohesive person, but the essays are definitely dip in and out as needed. And I appreciate that. I'm not a mother, so there's a whole, nor do I want to be one. So there's a lot of Caitlin stuff that doesn't apply to me at all. And when I read it, I'm like, oh, but you made the choice to have kids. So not, that's a interesting complaint. And then that reminds me, like she didn't make the choice to have kids, but this is still allowed to be hard. And it's a good empathy gut check for me. I get really tired, I'll be completely honest, about reading stories about people balancing motherhood and other things just because it doesn't apply to me. I try to read as much as I can to help you guys and to help our clients think about motherhood. But for me personally, when I read things for enjoyment, there's times I need to dip out of that narrative because it doesn't apply to me. And it is not something I enjoy all the time, to be honest, thinking about and talking about, because I've made different choices in my life. However, all that being said, I have a feeling Caitlin and I would get along if we sat over pints, but I have a feeling she would also be a lot for me. And I would imagine I would be too gentle in some ways on the world and on other people for her. But I think we'd find a lot of common ground in the idea that the true enemy for all of us is the systems that keep us in the places that we are, the system of misogyny and the system of patriarchy that pits women against each other for small achievements, that does not allow men to embrace emotions, that defines masculinity in such a specific way that it causes a lot of mental health issues within men. There's a whole chapter on that I really, really loved. I'd give this one a whirl, folks, especially around the end where she talks about mothering through an eating disorder. And then also the chapters on how she feels and talks about men in her later stages of feminism and how she has come to realize that the patriarchy literally does hurt us all. So again, that's More Than a Woman from Caitlin Moran. This has been Abbey Research Reads. I have been and will remain Dr. Kristen, and I will see you next time.